Matilda is a film about intelligence, courage, and justice, but in real life, not everyone got a happy ending. Some of those once beloved actors have since left this world under haunting circumstances. And you might never guess. Who was the first to go? Let's uncover the story behind the scenes and honor the legacies they left behind. Let's go. Paul Reubens as FBI Agent Bob. When he was 43 years old, Paul Reubens played FBI Agent Bob in the 1996 film Matilda. Though his role was limited to investigating the shady dealings of the Wormwood family, his unique style, unforgettable expressions, and mysterious presence made a small but lasting impression. However, Reubens' career stretched far beyond this children's film. Born on August 27, 1952, in Peekskill, New York, Paul Reubens, birth name Rubenfeld, grew up in an environment filled with both creativity and discipline. But it was the darker chapters of his private life that would shape him most profoundly. In 1991, at the height of his fame with Pee-wee's Playhouse, Reubens was arrested for indecent exposure at an adult movie theater in Florida. The story spread like wildfire, tearing apart the image of a beloved entertainer for children. Once known for bringing laughter, he suddenly became the target of harsh public backlash. He withdrew from the spotlight, living quietly for years before gradually returning to acting in a variety of roles. But that scandal remained an indelible stain in the public's memory. In 2002, he was once again caught in controversy over his personal life, further isolating him. Paul Reubens died on July 30th, 2023, in Los Angeles, just a few weeks before what would have been his 71st birthday, after quietly battling cancer for 6 years without making it public. He passed away with an estimated net worth of around $5 million, leaving behind not only a cultural icon, but a story of fame, downfall, redemption, and solitude. Before his death, he recorded a heartfelt message. "I just wanted to be someone who preserved all the feelings and memories of childhood and passed them on." Today, his ashes rest at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, among the stars he once stood beside. Quiet, but immortal. Jean Spiegel Howard as Mrs. Phelps. When she was 69 years old, Jean Spiegel Howard played the gentle librarian Mrs. Phelps in the 1996 film Matilda. Though she only appeared briefly, she embodied a quietly inspirational figure, the one who silently gave Matilda wings through books, with a warm gaze and a smile of encouragement. That small role became a symbol of belief in children who feel different, and it was also one of Jean's final roles on the big screen. Born on January 31, 1927, in Duncan, Oklahoma, Jean Spiegel married aspiring actor Rance Howard when she was just 22 years old. In the early years, they lived in rundown apartments, constantly moving from place to place in pursuit of acting jobs, with Jean mostly staying home to care for the children. When Ron Howard rose to fame through The Andy Griffith Show, the spotlight in the family suddenly tilted toward her husband and son. Jean wasn't jealous, but she slowly faded into the background, excluded from film sets, ignored in articles, with no lines in the family of artists narrative portrayed by the media. In backstage arguments, Jean once tearfully said, "I'm not the coat holder for the stars in this house." Once, after being rejected for a role because she was too old, she locked herself in the bedroom for 3 days. The pressures of life in showbiz never broke her marriage, but they quietly eroded her voice for decades. It wasn't until her 60s, after Ron had become a famous director, that Jean was invited back to act in small roles, not because she was his mother, but because she still longed to see herself on screen. Jean Spiegel. Howard died on September 2, 2000 in Los Angeles at the age of 73. She was laid to rest at Hollywood Forever Cemetery beside her husband, a testament to lifelong love. In How the Grinch Stole Christmas, directed by her son Ron Howard that same year, a message appeared at the end of the film. For Mom, who loved Christmas the most. She needed no spotlight to leave a lasting legacy. Her quiet devotion, gentleness, and presence will never be forgotten. Marian Dugan, as Cookie. When she was 78 years old, Marian Dugan appeared on screen as Cookie, the stern-faced, enigmatic cook, in Matilda, 1996. Though she was only on screen for a few minutes, the scene where she brings out the gigantic chocolate cake for Bruce Bogtrotter and watches him being forced to eat it down to the last bite became one of the film's most unforgettable moments. It was a small role, but one that left a chilling aftershock, and no one ever forgot the face of the 18-inch cake lady. 18-inch cake. Born on February 16, 1918, in Oak Park, Illinois, Marian Barton, later known as Marian Dugan, spent her entire life behind the scenes of Hollywood, largely unnoticed. She married Charles Dugan in 1942, a marriage that lasted over 65 years, though not always peacefully. While raising 4 children and supporting both her husband's and son's careers, her son being director Dennis Dugan, Marian once confessed that she felt like part of the backdrop of my own life. She began acting professionally in her 60s, a time when most women in the industry had already been discarded by Hollywood. She once shared how she was rejected for a role because her voice sounded too old, and on another occasion, her name was removed from the credits without explanation. Every role she accepted, from fleeting appearances in Quantum Leap to shadowy scenes in The Cable Guy, was her way of asserting she was still here, still visible, still longing to be recognized. Marian Dugan passed away on March 31, 2015, in Sherman Oaks, California, at the age of 97. She left this world quietly, just as she had lived. No red carpets, no grand funeral, just a small obituary quietly posted. No statues are built for women like her, but for anyone who ever saw her set down that giant cake in Matilda, they still remember Cookie, the woman who didn't say much, but left behind a feeling that never quite faded. Danny Devito as Harry Wormwood. Danny Devito, who played the conniving father Harry Wormwood in Matilda, 1996, stepped onto the screen at 51 years old with a character that was both detestable and unforgettable. As both the film's director and narrator, Devito brought chaotic humor to the story, transforming the slick-haired, fast-talking liar of a dad into a villainous icon etched in everyone's memory. But behind the squinty eyes and sharp one-liners was a man just as complex in real life. Born on November 17, 1944 in New Jersey, Danny Devito grew up in a working-class Italian-Albanian family. Bullied for his dwarfism, which left him standing at just 5 feet tall, Devito entered life with short legs but towering ambition. His fateful meeting with actress Rhea Pearlman in 1971 quickly turned into a passionate relationship. They moved in together just 2 weeks later. But their marriage, which lasted over 40 years, was filled with conflict. From backstage arguments during Taxi to icy silences where they lived together but didn't speak for weeks, their love story was anything but smooth. In 2012, they separated. Then, unexpectedly, reconciled. Then drifted apart again. They never divorced, but no longer lived as husband and wife. Some said they were the kind of love that couldn't live together, couldn't live apart. In the final years of their relationship, Pearlman once admitted, "I love Danny, but I no longer understand the man I married." His career soared like a rocket, but his personal life always hovered somewhere between fame and loneliness. In 2025, Danny Devito turned 80 years old. Still active in the arts, still laughing loudly in script meetings, but his once mischievous eyes now carry a tint of time. With an estimated net worth of $80 million, he's not just a giant of Hollywood comedy, he's a living testament to the complexity of success and all it quietly costs. Rhea Pearlman as Zineia Wormwood. When she was 48 years old, Rhea Pearlman took on the role of Zineia Wormwood in Matilda, 1996, bringing with her a sharp, humorous energy that made audiences both irritated and amused. With her golden blonde hair, piercing voice, and an attitude so indifferent it bordered on heartless toward her daughter Matilda, Zineia embodied irresponsibility wrapped in flashy fashion. But what many didn't know, the woman who played Matilda's mother was also, in real life, living in a fractured marriage with the very man who played Matilda's father. Born on March 31, 1948, in Coney Island, New York, Rhea Pearlman had once been a shining star of sitcoms, best known for her role as Carla Tortelli in Cheers, which earned her 4 Emmy Awards and made her an icon of the tough but genuine waitress archetype. However, Pearlman's off-screen life was marked by quiet upheavals. Her marriage to Danny Devito, whom she met in 1971 and moved in with just 2 weeks later, had once been considered one of Hollywood's rare, enduring love stories. But behind the image of a couple, perfect both on stage and off, was a hidden melancholy. In 2012, they announced their separation after over 30 years of marriage, only to quietly reconcile in 2013. Yet the relationship never fully healed. They separated again in 2017, this time with no drama, no blame, not even a formal divorce. In one interview, Pearlman said, "We're closer now, not being married, than we were living together under one roof." A confession that was both sad and beautiful, as if love had faded but never turned cold enough to sever completely. Through all those years, she continued to act, appeared alongside her children, and remained the familiar ex in Devito's life, like a shadow that never vanished, just quietly stepped into the background. In 2025, Rhea Pearlman is 77 years old. She still appears regularly on screen, from Barbie to Poker Face, and continues to radiate the sharpness and charm that have captivated generations of viewers. With an estimated net worth of around $50 million, she is not only a symbol of enduring success, but also a living testament to a particular kind of Hollywood woman, resilient, refined, and always able to stand tall through the slip-ups of private life. Pam Ferris as Agatha Trunchbull. When Pam Ferris was 48 years old, she played Principal Agatha Trunchbull in Matilda, 1996, bringing with her a cold presence that left the entire audience breathless. With clenched teeth, eyes that seemed to pierce straight through the soul, and a booming voice that echoed down school corridors, she turned Trunchbull into a worldwide nightmare. But what few people expected, behind all that makeup was a quiet woman who once built a heart of steel, just to conceal a painful personal choice. Born on May 11, 1948, in Hanover, within post-war occupied territory, Pam Ferris grew up among rubble and the dreams of rebuilding from ruins. While girls her age dreamed of wedding dresses and giggling children, Pam thought only of the stage. She threw herself into performance, from New Zealand to the UK, putting down roots in theater troupes and never slowing down. She once admitted, "I loved acting so much that I didn't dare have children." Not because she didn't want to, but because she feared she'd be a worse mother than she was a performer. She married actor Roger Frost in 1986, but contrary to the romantic image of two artists under one roof, they lived reclusively in the countryside of Kent, avoiding the spotlight outside of work. In a 2012 interview, Pam said gently, "I don't feel sad about not having children, but I know I could have been a decent mother." It was one of the rare times she revealed a crack beneath her calm surface, hinting at the sacrifice she made to climb to the peak of her career. In 2025, Pam Ferris is 77 years old. She no longer carries a script to set every day, but her roles, from Marge Dursley to Sister Evangelina, still appear all over the screen. With an estimated net worth of $6 million, she doesn't need to stand in the spotlight to be remembered. One glare from Trunchbull is all it takes for millions who grew up in the 1990s to shiver all over again. Embeth Davids as Miss Honey. When Embeth Davids was 31 years old, she played the role of Miss Honey in Matilda, 1996, bringing with her a gentle presence, warm eyes, and a voice that seemed to soothe all wounds. On screen, she was the small beam of light in the darkness Matilda had to endure. But what audiences didn't see was this. Behind that sweetness was an actress yearning to break free from soft-spoken roles. And later on, a mother who would hear her own child say, "You're nothing like Miss Honey." Born on August 11, 1965 in Indiana, Embeth Davids grew up between two worlds, America, where she was born, and South Africa, where she had to learn Afrikaans just to be allowed to attend school like other children. Her early roles in Cape Town marked the beginning of a long, challenging journey. But it was that very journey that led her to Schindler's List, where Steven Spielberg discovered the haunting sadness in her gaze. Then came Matilda, where she portrayed a woman who was fragile but unyielding. Yet ironically, the image of Miss Honey would become a shadow that followed Davids into her personal life. In a 2024 interview, she recalled, "When my kids were little, someone would mention Miss Honey and their eyes would light up, but my son once scoffed, 'You're nothing like her.'" In reality, Davids had endured brutal years battling stage 3 breast cancer, undergoing a double mastectomy, and bravely refusing to wear prosthetic breasts while filming a nude scene in Ray Donovan, a decision that left audiences speechless. Between roles, while working on the screenplay for Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight, she was once asked by her own child, "What do you do all day?" A question that left her silent for hours, unable to instantly explain the loneliness of being a mother who was also trying to remain an artist. In 2025, Embeth Davids is 59 years old. Not Miss Honey in a classroom anymore, but a director who has finally stepped into the light after decades of quietly writing, editing, and waiting. She appeared at the 2024 Toronto Film Festival with her 2 children, the same children who once doubted her, now sitting in silence, watching her on screen. Her estimated net worth is $5 million, but more importantly, she is finally called extraordinary by her own family. Not because of a role, but because she survived, she fought, and she lived to tell her story. Mara Wilson as Matilda Wormwood. Mara Elizabeth Wilson played the role of Matilda Wormwood, the little girl with supernatural powers in Matilda, 1996, when she was only 9 years old. The film didn't just make Mara an icon for an entire generation of young viewers, it also marked a fateful turning point in her life, a crossroads between cinematic fame and a looming tragedy no one could have foreseen. Born on July 24, 1987 in Burbank, California, Mara was the daughter of TV engineer Mike Wilson and Susie Shapiro, a devoted school volunteer. While Matilda was being filmed, Mara's mother was diagnosed with terminal breast cancer. Mara was only 8 years old and unaware that she was about to face the greatest shock of her life. Just 1 month before the film premiered, her mother passed away, leaving the talented child in an emotional void that nothing could fill. From that moment, her passion for acting faded. She struggled with obsessive-compulsive disorder, anxiety, ADHD, and the feeling of being trapped in the enormous shadow of her own character, Matilda. In her memoir, she revealed that when she turned 13, the press branded her a spoiled brat simply because she declined interviews to rest on her birthday. Today, Mara Wilson is 37 years old, living quietly in California, focusing on writing, voice acting, and community work related to mental health. She came out as bisexual in 2016 and has used her voice to protect and advocate for other child stars like herself. Though she's no longer on stage as she once was, the image of little Matilda, silently standing in front of the Red House in a storm, remains an unforgettable symbol. Her estimated net worth in 2025 is around $500,000, but Mara Wilson's true value lies in her courage to step away from the spotlight and return to her true self. Jon Loveitz as Mickey. Jon Loveitz, the veteran comedic actor, made audiences burst into laughter with his role as Mickey, the host of the $1 million sticky game show in the 1996 film Matilda. At the time, he was 39 years old, bringing with him the trademark sarcastic charm that had made him famous on Saturday Night Live. His appearance, though brief, was unforgettable, helping elevate Matilda from a children's story into a multi-generational cultural icon. Born on July 21, 1957 in Tarzana, California, John Michael Loveitz grew up in a Jewish family with roots in Romania and Russia. While he is best known for his witty television persona, his personal life was once rocked by a highly dramatic conflict in 2007. During a heated confrontation at the Laugh Factory Comedy Club, Loveitz publicly blamed fellow comedian Andy Dick for giving drugs to Bryn Hartman, wife of Phil Hartman, who later murdered her husband and took her own life. Phil wasn't just a friend. He was, in Lovewitz's words, the big brother I always wished I had. The feud lasted for years, with public clashes that left a scar that never fully healed. The incident revealed a darker, more sorrowful side of John Loveitz and reignited a profound sense of loss within the American comedy community of the late 1990s. Now 67 years old, John Loveitz continues to work in entertainment, performing in comedy shows, voicing animated characters, and occasionally appearing on television programs such as The Tonight Show, where he portrayed George Santos. He lives in Beverly Hills and remains known for his satirical style and unapologetically blunt opinions, even when they spark controversy. With an estimated net worth of around $12 million, Loveitz stands as a living testament to a long-lasting career filled with humor and hidden shadows, where laughter has always coexisted with painful memories rarely seen beyond the spotlight. Jimmy Carr's as Bruce Bogtrotter. At just 13 years old, Jimmy Carrs took on the role of Bruce Bogtrotter, the boy who thrilled audiences around the world with the unforgettable scene of devouring a giant chocolate cake in Matilda, 1996. Bruce, who was cruelly punished by Miss Trunchbull in front of the entire school, wasn't just part of one of the film's most disturbing scenes. He became a symbol of resistance for bullied kids everywhere. With a messy face, determined eyes, and the cheers of his classmates behind him, Bruce became the classroom's unexpected hero. Born on July 26, 1984, in Los Angeles County, California, Jimmy was once considered a promising child star after Matilda's huge success. But just 2 years later, he vanished from Hollywood following a small supporting role in The Wedding Singer and an appearance in an episode of ER. As it turns out, after working at MTV News and participating in community gardening projects, Jimmy began to realize that he was born to heal, not to perform. He returned to school, immersed himself in biochemistry, and went on to study medicine, eventually earning his medical degree from the Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine in 2017. In 2025, Jimmy Carrs is 41 years old. Today, he works as a doctor, using his knowledge and heart to heal others, a path both unexpected and deeply inspiring. With an estimated net worth of around $500,000, his true value cannot be measured by money alone. Once a symbol of childhood triumph, Jimmy Carrs has quietly become a symbol of mature compassion and human growth. Tracy Walter as FBI Agent Bill. When Tracy Walter was 48 years old, he played the role of FBI Agent Bill in Matilda, 1996, bringing with him a strange, brooding energy that was uniquely his. As the partner of FBI Agent Bob, his character appeared in scenes investigating the Wormwood household, with few lines, but enough presence to leave an impression as a quiet shadow in Matilda's absurd and layered world. Born on November 25, 1947 in Jersey City, New Jersey, Tracy Walter didn't come from the bright lights of the stage, but from the dusty gray streets. He was the son of a truck driver and once played basketball for St. Anthony's School. But instead of a court or a workshop, he chose Hollywood, a place where he would spend his life portraying the forgotten and overlooked. Henchmen, servants, philosophical mechanics. Small roles, but unforgettable. Yet behind those smoke-veiled eyes and the gravelly voice was an intensely private life. No scandals, no parties, no downfalls, just a solitary character actor wholly devoted to his craft, ultimately fading from the public's memory despite having stood beside icons like Jack Nicholson, Clint Eastwood, and Jodie Foster. In 2025, Tracy Walter is 77 years old, retired, and has virtually disappeared from the screen since the 2010s. He lives quietly with his small family and 2 children, rarely appearing in public. With a net worth of around $1 million USD, Tracy Walter didn't leave behind a towering legacy, but something else. Fleeting glances you couldn't mistake, roles no one remembers by name but that still haunt the mind. In a world of superstars and fame, he was the whisper between 2 scenes, and that's exactly what made him special. Jacqueline Steiger as Amanda Thripp. When she was just 13 years old, Jacqueline Steiger delivered a performance that audiences would never forget as Amanda Thripp, the sweet little girl with 2 pigtails who was grabbed by the cruel headmistress Trunchbull, spun through the air, and thrown over a fence in Matilda, 1996. Though she only appeared in a few scenes, the image of that tiny girl soaring across the schoolyard like an angel fighting back against evil became one of the film's most iconic moments. Born on December 26, 1986, in Reseda, California, Jacqueline grew up under the spotlight of film sets from a young age. However, after appearing in Dennis the Menace Strikes Again and Beautiful, she quietly disappeared from Hollywood. Her departure left many wondering, did Jacqueline experience something that led her to choose a simple life far from the camera's gaze? Or was it simply that a delicate artistic soul chose to grow up outside the glow of fame? To this day, those questions remain unanswered. In 2025, Jacqueline Steiger is 41 years old. She lives a peaceful and very private life, rarely appearing in public. Her estimated net worth is around $100,000 USD, enough to reflect a brief yet unforgettable career. Kyami Daviel as Lavender. When she was just 9 years old, Kyami Daviel left a lasting impression on audiences around the world as Lavender, the mischievous, loyal little girl who always stood by Matilda in the battle against injustice at Cruncham Hall. In the dark world of Miss Trunchbull and oppressive adults, Lavender was a light, smart, brave, and a small symbol of pure friendship. Born on August 21, 1986, in Kentucky, Kyami was a child full of passion for the arts. Her parents didn't hesitate to move the entire family to California so their daughter could pursue her dream of acting. After her success in Matilda, Kyami appeared in several TV shows such as Moesha, The Steve Harvey Show, and the film Bruno, 2000. However, she didn't choose the path of stardom. She gradually stepped away from Hollywood, pursued higher education, and earned a degree in psychology, while also actively working in the community and teaching acting to young people. Now, in 2025, Kyami is 44 years old, living a quiet life and has no children. With an estimated net worth of around $300,000 USD, she's not a wealthy celebrity, but she proves something else. That some actors don't need fame to be unforgettable. Brian Levenson as Michael Wormwood. At 12 years old, Brian Levenson left an unforgettable mark on audiences through his role as Michael Wormwood, the lazy, gruff older brother who constantly clashed with Matilda in the classic film Matilda, 1996. Though a supporting character in a family of awful adults, Michael's presence helped shape the suffocating world Matilda had to overcome, making Brian's role an indispensable part of the story. Born on October 27, 1982 in Los Angeles, Brian grew up in the heart of the film industry. Before Matilda, he had already appeared in Predator 2, Hardball, and hit series like Roseanne and The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. But just as the spotlight began to shine, Brian disappeared. Some believe it was a personal decision. Others suspect that, like many child stars, Brian may have been burned out by the invisible pressures of Hollywood fame. In 2013, he made a surprise appearance at a Matilda cast reunion, shocking fans who saw that Michael Wormwood had grown into a full-grown man, yet still carried the mischievous smile of years past. Today, Brian Levenson is 42 years old, living a very private life. He's absent from social media and hasn't publicly announced any new projects. With an estimated net worth of about $200,000 USD, he lives life on his own terms. For audiences, even with just one role, Brian touched an irreplaceable piece of a generation's childhood memory. Innocent eyes, cheerful smiles, but behind them were lives no one could have predicted. The actors who once shaped our childhood memories with Matilda have faced tragedy, illness, and endings that leave us heartbroken. Have you ever wondered what became of them after the spotlight faded? Which character moved you the most after learning their real story? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to follow us to keep discovering the emotional stories behind the films that defined our youth.